Okay, Monique, you make some great points, but the banning of violent video games by the federal government can simply not happen. You mentioned how there are many loopholes in the system and how easy it is for kids to get access to violent video games. Won't getting rid of them altogether make kids want it more and create more loopholes? When you get something taken away from you, doesn't it make you want it more? Look at the prohibition of alcohol. When the U.S. passed the 18th Amendment in 1919, there was a rise in alcohol consumption in many cities, as well as significant increases in organized crime. You can only imagine what the effects of banning violent video games will have. Violent video game companies would be demanding is unconstitutional and against the First Amendment of free speech and expression. Isn't it true video games qualify for First Amendment protection? Like protected books, plays, and movies, they communicate ideas through familiar literary devices and features distinct to the medium. The basic principles of freedom of speech should not vary with a new and different communication medium. Consequently, the game industry would be demanding that the federal government ban violent movies as well as violent television shows. Kids are just as likely to see a rated R movie with their parents as they are to get access to violent video games. Before you know it, the video game industry would demand for wars not to be taught in class because they're too violent. What would count as violence? When would something be too violent to be allowed? How far would the government go in limiting what kids and everyone could see and or hear? In addition, parents would be complaining that the federal government is controlling their child and stepping over the line of responsibility. The federal government simply cannot ban violent video games. The federal government does not have power to restrict the flow of ideas. Moreover, you mentioned that there are 13.7 million single parents in the United States. 49.8% of them work year-round, as well as 46.8% of them raise more than one child. So you say the federal government needs to help parents monitor their children? However, the Entertainment Software Association, ESA for short, reported that 94% of video game players under the age of 18 say that their parents are present when they purchase or rent games. This means that parents are fully aware of what their kids are doing. In addition, the ESA showed that 63% of parents believe violent video games are positive for their kids. As mentioned before, they provide a way to release tension and stress as well as relax. In addition, allow children to use their imagination and explore ideas in a non-threatening way. Next, you mentioned how there have been many shootings overlapping with violent video game sale increases. This simply is not true. Studies by the FBI in 2009 and the ESA in 2009 show that violent juvenile crime in the United States has been declining as violent video game popularity has increased. In fact, the arrest rate for all juvenile violent crimes has declined 49.3%. In the same period, violent video game sales have more than quadrupled. You may be wondering, what about older people that play violent video games? According to PBS News, the average age of a mass shooter is 35 years, same with video games. So for older people to kill, there are other factors that lead them to do it, such as movies, developmental issues, and family violence. Like I mentioned before, family violence exposure is more predictor of hurting someone than playing violent video games. To end, banning violent video games would cause more harm than good. The federal government would keep gaining more power over us, and gradually our freedoms would be depleted. It may start with just banning violent video games, but it can end with the banning of movies and television altogether. We must stop the federal government from gaining too much power and limit the ideas that come to our head. We were brought on this earth to be curious about many things and to think about abstract ideas. The federal government cannot take our meaning of life away, not to mention that taking away mass media would extremely hurt our nation's economy. There's so much advertising for trailers and television shows, so much money goes into making these movies and video games, especially with high-tech features like 3D. This will eventually lead to a decline in sales of televisions as well as gaming consoles. Many jobs will be lost and more people will resort to violence. Therefore, I'm committed and always will be for the allowance of violent video games.